were born ready, don't you?
Got
Hell
it.
yeah. My friend, it's the second time I have a chance to talk to you. It's always a huge honor. You guys gonna hit Quebec really soon. We miss you. But for people that don't recognize your face or your driving or your voice, who the hell are you?
I am Tim Brennan from the Dropkick Murphys.
Hell yeah. Dropkick
Yeah.
Murphys, there's a huge love affair, between Canada, Quebec, and the band. We miss you. You're gonna hit Quebec, Trois-Rivières for a beautiful festival called a FestiVoix. But first of all, how you felt about getting back here?
We're so excited. We always have so much fun playing up in Canada. And, you guys always treat us so great. The entire country always treats us so great. And it's been a minute. So we can't wait. We can't wait to get back up.
We also can wait because there's a lot of new songs we never heard live.
That's right. Yeah,
Because there
that's
was
right.
actually a release each year. There was a full length release in 2001 called "Turn Up the Dial." Sorry, we talk about that record. It's such a great record. But since then,
Thank
you
you.
release this machine still kill fascism and Okemah Rising. How was the process of writing those songs? And since it was cover, how did you get that idea to go in that direction?
It was a very interesting thing and fun thing for us to do. We had been contacted by the Guthrie people, led by Woody's daughter Nora, back in 2002 or 2003, and so that's the first time that we ever started doing anything with Woody's lyrics. Shipping Up to Boston is a Woody lyric. A lot of people don't know that, but so Shipping and the song Gonna Be a Blackout Tonight are the first two Guthrie songs that we played around with. There was always talk of us doing other ones, but it was just, I suppose it took a little bit of time to get to that point. And then when we started working with these Guthrie lyrics and Okemah Rising, um, we were initially toying with the idea of the first couple songs that we tried, and then when we sort of put a little bit more thought into it, and all of Woody's stuff was done on acoustic. A lot of the music that we draw from as far as inspiration is acoustic, folk music, and so we figured, why not try to do an entirely acoustic thing? It's something we had toyed around with before, but never really committed fully to, and so that was an exciting prospect to do that, and then to be working with amazing lyrics that were written by such a legendary guy. Um, the hard thing for us was to make sure that we came up with some music that could match the intensity of the words. And so it was such a fun process. It was a learning experience for all of us, I think, as far as you know approaching things differently than we normally would, and we had such a blast getting it all down.
Wow, wow. I didn't know for shipping in Boston and Blackout Tonight. And I'm sure it's one of those songs you guys were like, we could have write that. I would want to write that because it fits so much with your personality and the band.
Yeah, I think that was one thing that always stood out to Nora when she asked us to um, put music to some unpublished Woody lyrics. She thought that there was sort of a definite sort of similarity between the stuff that Woody was doing and the things that we were doing. Obviously, different time periods, but as we learned as we were recording these songs for This Machine and Okemah Rising, that despite the fact that these lyrics were written in like the 30s and 40s and stuff, they still very much feel like they could have been written today. So that was an interesting thing to realize as well.
It's so true. It's so true. And you said it, those lyrics, when you choose words, it can be like, it doesn't have to be fast because in those time music was pretty different. But
Yeah,
those songs have such impact that, putting faster beats and, more punchy music in it is just, it worked because you're right. It's crazy how music is a living thing. I'm sure that when he died, he thought that, those songs gonna end up there, but it's
That's
still
right.
living and the spirit is there. And thank you guys for doing it. I'm sure his daughter is so proud that, his father memory is still there and that she reached the punk scene. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, and they were so great. The Guthrie people were so great as far as they were so supportive of what we were doing, and we would send them music as we were working on it, and they were always so complimentary and supportive of that. And anytime, it was very rare, but anytime we felt like we needed to like change a word or something like that, we would always ask them first, and they were always completely on board for whatever we wanted to do. So that was a really good feeling, that Nora and the Guthrie people trusted us to do that sort of thing.
And I think it's a cool thing you mentioned that, it was a challenge in a way because you never went full band acoustic. But I think when you get out of your comfortable zone, that's when you really grow up as a band. And I think the Murphys always done that with every record. It's not trying to reproduce what has been working in the past, but trying to do something different. And it's so cool because I think that's why you're such a driving force and you're so strong.
Thank you so much. That's very nice of you to say. I mean, that was definitely something that we were concerned about because we are known for doing a fairly specific thing, um, and so there was a little bit of worry that we really wanted our fans to sort of come along on the ride with us and trust that it's all going to end up great, because when you initially hear, if you're a Dropkicks fan and you hear like, oh, they're about to put out an acoustic album, that might scare you a little bit because again, we're known for doing really loud sort of electric guitar based things, and so we were just so thankful that everybody was willing to sort of come on that ride with us, and the tour that we did where we played entirely acoustic. um, I think we made sure to sort of tell everybody ahead of time, like, look, this is going to be way different than you're used to. We did seated theaters and stuff, and reworked a bunch of old songs as well as playing the newer Guthrie songs. And we had such a blast doing it. And once it became clear to us that the fans were along there with us and willing to come along and have fun with us like that, it made things so much, even greater. So we had such a great time, and we were so pleasantly surprised with how everything was received.
It's the energy, you always have that energy, even
Right,
acoustic. And I think the crowd just fuel you. And it's who having more fun, the crowd or the band. But at the end,
right, yeah,
everybody had a blast.
yeah. Yeah, it was great, and that was one thing that Ken, when we first started working on it, um, that was one thing that Ken was really hammering home. He was like, "I know we're doing this acoustic record, but we got to make sure that it feels like any other Dropkicks record as far as intensity and that stuff. Like, forget the fact that we're playing acoustic instruments." And I think we did a pretty good job of that. So I was very proud of us.
Yeah, and it seems that every show is different, and you have kind of a new energy. When I'll leave for taking care of his mother,
Mhm.
you guys, change that negative situation for the band into something positive. Because I saw the video where Mickey from Mickey Rickshaw and the Ramjack went on stage singing the songs, Jen from the Bump Ups, and everybody was now involved in the crowd, and everybody loved it because, like I said, you really took something negative and you put it into something that each night it's fucking different and people never know what to expect. And I think it's cool and challenging for the band.
Most fun parts about being in the band is how different it can be from night to night. And also, like you said, with Al stepping back to take care of his mom and everything, we, we certainly could have sat there and been like, all right, well, I guess we sort of pull the plug for a little bit, but obviously with Al's blessing, we continued on, and we had to think to ourselves, how are we going to turn this, as you said, this sort of negative situation into did you lose me?
Just a bit, but I get the
Oh,
whole
okay.
thing.
All right, good.
But yeah, you're right. And it's not like I said, it's something that it's negative for the band, but it's positive for him. It's such a beautiful thing to take care of his mother. So,
Oh God, yeah,
I'm
absolutely. And of course we all, when that came up, we all knew exactly what Al had to do and what we had to do and everything. And if the shoe were on the other foot with anybody else in the band, we would do the same thing. So
it's so cool. We love our mom, and then we
oh
were
yeah.
like we saw our parents getting their parents into plays that are horrible. So it's cool when you could take care of them, and so I'm curious how music came to your life when you were a kid. Were any relevance influence you? Did you discover music by yourself?
I luckily had my brother and I grew up in a household that wasn't super musical. My parents listened to some music. Um, but for some reason, my brother and I turned out to be music fanatics. We're not sure why. So luckily, I had a brother who was a year older than me, and so I could kind of ride the coattails of his musical taste. Um, he's certainly responsible for getting me into 90% of the stuff that I grew up listening to. And then when I was about 14, um, I met a teacher at my high school who was a big fan of the Pogues, and he introduced me to the Pogues music, and then I up around traditional. I'm obsessed with that sort of thing, and it's such a great feeling also to like when you show somebody something and you watch it click for them. And like you watch them instantly become a fan of whatever music you're showing them, like that's such a great feeling to pass something like that on. Get into it is so great as well. Like I said, my brother introduced me to a lot of stuff. I had the pleasure of being able to show him the Pogues and watch him slowly become obsessed with the Pogues and Shane MacGowan and stuff. So that was a great feeling. You're
Oh, you met Shane,
absolutely
I think, a couple of times.
we were lucky enough to do their Christmas tour in 2005, and then I saw them a bunch of other times apart from that. And when we were on tour with them, we became friendly with a few of the guys. So we started going to see them a little bit more when they were still touring, and so yeah, we got to meet Shane a couple of times. And then before I was in the band, he recorded vocals for the song "Good Rats" on "Sing Loud, Sing Proud," as I'm sure a lot of fans know. Unfortunately, I wasn't there for that, but yes. So we have gotten to hang with him a couple times. Yeah.
I was watching a documentary about the Sex Pistol, and you see him dancing like
Yeah, that's right.
before
Yeah.
it was before the Pogues, and you're like,
I know
man,
when
that
he's
dude.
so young. Yeah, he's so young.
And you're like, man, that dude got punk rock. And it's so cool because the Pogue really, really was the bridge between punk rock, punks, and Celtic music,
Hmm.
more cultural music from. And it's crazy, man, that he's still here and still living, man. Such a legend.
I know. Yeah, such a legend. I hope that we get another album out of him before he decides to hang it up. But yeah, what an incredible songwriter and lyricist and everything. Yeah, incredible.
So cool. Uh, did you remember the first show you ever did? Not just with the Murphys, but your first gig you ever did in your life. And how
Oh
was it?
yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. it was very exciting. It was I was in a hardcore band at the time. I was like 14 years old and I was playing drums in a hardcore band. And the first show that we ever played was up in Vermont. Um, so it was, I grew up in Connecticut, so it was, you know, 3 or 4 hours away, maybe. And or maybe, yeah, probably 3 hours away. And I was such a little kid, and like I said, my parents weren't super in weren't super music people, and they certainly weren't hip to the fact that their 14-year-old was playing with bands and clubs and stuff like that. So I remember the rest of the band guys went up in a van or something like that, and then my dad drove me up by myself with my drums and stuff because I was so young. They didn't really feel comfortable just sending me in a van full of kids they didn't know. So my dad dropped me off at the show and then just hung around Brattleboro, Vermont for 2 hours or whatever, and then came and grabbed me and my drums and then drove me back home right after the show was done. And It was an incredible experience. It was so incredible. And so I started playing shows when I was probably about 14. And it was always such a great experience for me. I got to do little bits of touring and stuff, but it wasn't until I really joined the Dropkicks that I did big amounts of touring. You know, bands I had been in would go to, you know, New York or Pennsylvania or something like that, but that's about it. So it wasn't until I joined the Dropkicks that I really had the opportunity to travel like that and play shows everywhere.
I could relate to that now that I'm a father. My little girl gonna turn 14, so I think
Mm-hmm.
I would be there too, like
Yeah,
just in
absolutely.
case.
Me too. Yeah, I mean, I used to fight them on it all the time, obviously, but now as a 41-year-old man, when I think back on it, if I had a 14-year-old kid, I would be like, "You're not going in a van with all them." No, absolutely not. You know? So I get it.
And I'm sure your mother will like, it's gonna be a phase. Just go with him. He's
Right.
14. It's gonna change. Don't make your life with that. And then, like
Exactly.
30 years later, hey, mom, I'm still in
That's
the
right.
drop kick. But it's
That's
cool. It's a
right.
beautiful story.
Yeah, yeah. And luckily, you know, and as I said, even though I didn't come from a musical family and my parents didn't at the beginning really didn't really understand the whole show playing thing and being in a band, and now we don't have two bigger fans in the world. So that's nice. You know, they love coming to see us and I love having them out in the audience.
Yeah, and you know, having a lot of fans is so cool and you're so happy. But when you got your parents to love the band, it's like a huge succeed in your life.
Yeah, exactly. That's a big coup. Yeah, absolutely.
It's so cool. There's still ticket to the festival in Trois-Rivières. You're gonna love it. It's really near Le Fleuve Saint-Laurent. It's near the big river. The stage is so cool, and it's not like for the Murphys. It's not a huge festival. It's still a small
Mhm.
festival, but it's really cool. And I don't think you ever played Trois-Rivières.
Yeah, I don't know if we have, but I can say that we love doing those outdoor festivals where the stage is like by a giant river or a body of water. We thoroughly enjoy that, so we're looking forward to it.
And I'm curious, do you remember your first time you came to Quebec?
I do. I remember. Yes, actually, I do. I went there once in college as a tourist, and then I remember my first time being up there with the band. Um, I was it was on the 2003 Warp Tour where I would play like one or two songs a day, but for the most part, I was selling merch for the band, and I remember we were on the Warp Tour, so it's, you know, a million buses of bands going up through the border and stuff, and everyone got held up at the border for like a really long time. So we showed up. I don't remember what time we played that day, but we showed up at about 1:30 in the afternoon, and because I was selling merch at the time, I basically had to like jump off the bus while it was still running and go set up all the shirts and everything and try to make up for lost time. So my first time in Quebec with the Dropkicks was a very stressful one.
It's
Running
funny, I've
so
got the
late.
flyers there. The
Oh yeah,
2003, yeah, Montreal Vans Warped
yeah.
Tour.
The '03 Warped Tour in Montreal. That's right. Absolutely. And it ended up being a great day, but it was definitely it was a stressful beginning to it. Although to be fair, on that tour, because I was doing merch, I would have to wake up super early. I would have to wake up at like 7 o'clock every day. Basically, I was like the first guy out and then the last guy in every night. And uh, and I probably had one of those crummy Nokia phones at the time. I think it was my first cell phone, and I looked and saw the time, and it was like 8:30 or something. So an hour and a half after I was supposed to wake up. So I shot out of bed and went running to the front of the bus, only to realize that we were just sitting at the border of Canada, along with every other bus on the Warp Tour. So while it was stressful when we got there and I had to hustle to get all the shirts going and everything, um, I do remember it was kind of like when your school gets delayed because of snow. You wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, I can go back to bed for a little bit. So that was nice. But yeah, so it's funny. I do remember that first trip up to Quebec.
Yeah, you don't forget that when I went to
No.
Washington, D.C., when I came back, I got stuck for 3 or 4 hours.
Oh,
And they were like taking our luggage and throw it on the floor and like,
yeah. Yeah, they're
arrange
not
arrange yourself with that, like pack back.
right. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times they don't seem super concerned with what's in your bag, but you know, those guys got a lot of those guys got a lot to deal with, so I understand.
Yeah, yeah. And the guy told me like, "What's your name?" It's Eric. Oh, it's a prisoner name. It's a criminal name. I'm like, what the
What?
hell? What? Every Eric are criminal in the world. Wow.
That's right. Yep. Yep.
But it's cool. It's cool. It's so cool. Like when you look at it 20 years later, you're still there and that the Murphys still have the fires. And congratulations for that. I always
Thank
said
you
being a
so much.
band with your best friend, it's tough. It's tough to keep the friendship and it's tough to keep that passion alive. But you always challenge yourself and congratulations. Like the two new records are such amazing records. And we feel like
Thank you.
all the heart you have.
Thank you so much. I mean, like I said earlier, people are along for the ride with us, and we're going to keep doing what we're doing, and what everybody likes to hear from us. So keep coming out. We'll keep showing up.
Okay, man, we can do that for a long time, Murphys.
Good. Good.
Tim, thank you so much. You've always been generous with me in the radio show, and I appreciate. I will be there in Trois-Rivières. I can't wait. It's in 2 weeks. People grab tickets. The album are available everywhere. Buy it, of course. There's merch. And if you don't have music, just go listen to it and sing them loud.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, it was my pleasure, Eric. It's so good to see you again.
Thank you. And before we leave, we're going to celebrate our 15th anniversary as a radio show. Do you mind doing an ID? Just keep it simple. Just I happy 15th anniversary.
Absolutely. Say it one more time?
Like just saying happy, this is Tim, and happy 15th anniversary for Prescription Punk Rock if you want to go there.
Prescription punk rock. You got it. Hey, this is Tim Brennan from the Dropkick Murphys. Happy anniversary to Prescription Punk Rock. Love that you're still here, baby.
Hell yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you, Tim. See you in Trois-Rivières. Have a safe trip. And thank
All
you
right.
so much for doing this while driving. I
My
appreciate.
pleasure. My pleasure. I'll see you soon, man.
Cheers. Bye bye, Tim.
Bye.